Good morning.
First question is, what every American waking up wants to know, how much danger is the United States in right now?
Well, we're still along that predictable arc that I think most people who've been watching this problem expected. I mean, the timing may have been a bit of a surprise, but the North, I believe, was going to do this. This is their plan. This is where they were going. They're doing it for their own purposes. I don't mean to criticize the current administration. I think some of the things they've done to amp up the pressure on the North Koreans have been absolutely appropriate. But you realize the sum total after 7 months of the Trump administration is that North Korea is much further along in its missile and its nuclear program, just the way it performed when President Obama was president and President Bush was president. There's a real consistency here.
A scary consistency.
Indeed.
And you did tell my colleague Jake Tapper, what you just alluded to there, that you believe, they said this on August 9th, that Trump has a coherent plan on North Korea and it was inartfully executed.
Right.
A lot has changed since then, as you just mentioned. Do you still believe the White House has a reasonable plan to deal with North Korea?
I do. Now, it's still inartfully executed. You got to watch the tweets. And I think we had an unforced error over the weekend when we brought up our free trade agreement with our South Korean friends on whom we rely and with whom we will have to cooperate for this problem. Just out of the blue, the president indicated he may want to renegotiate that agreement. I think that's probably wrong on the merits, and it's certainly not integrated into a broader approach to Northeast Asia. So I think that hurt. So still unartfully executed. But again, I think our policy is to impress upon the Chinese how seriously we view this. North Korea has been along this predictable arc. The unpredictable actor has been us. We've actually acted with more sound and fury than I think the Chinese are accustomed to. I think we've done that with purpose, which is in essence to discomfort the Chinese with the current situation.
Exactly. And, you know, in all fairness, and I think this is what you were pointing out with the part of the Trump policy on North Korea that you like, that everything that has been tried for the past 2 decades has not worked. So why not, you know, rattle the cages, particularly of the Chinese? But it hasn't worked.
Not so far. And it's not cost-free, Dana. I mean, 18, 24 months ago, I pointed out that we'd probably be where we are now on this arc with the North Koreans getting more capable and more dangerous. We would be there almost certainly within our current definition of acceptable risk. And clearly what the Trump administration has decided to do was to embrace a bit more risk, to be a bit more activist, be a bit more destabilizing of the peace, of the stability of the peninsula, not to influence the North Koreans, they're not influenceable, but to influence the Chinese to amp up the pressure. I do think there is an absolute marked difference between the Chinese response to intercontinental ballistic missile tests and a nuclear test. I actually do think that's a bit of a political red line for the Chinese. So that gives us an opportunity here to try to cooperate with the Chinese to get the region to do more.
Okay, so President Trump is going to meet with his national security team later today. If you were in that meeting, on that note, on China, or maybe anything else you want to share, what would you be arguing for on how to act right now?
So first of all, the military options are all bad. They're not zero, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs has pointed out there are never no military options. So we've got them, but none of them are good. I think diplomatic isolation, check, we've got that. This may be the time now to really hammer home we're deathly serious about your performance, China, on sanctions. Not just the ones that were recently passed by the Security Council, but maybe even amping up the sanctions between China and North Korea. North Korea is dependent on the Chinese for their energy. They can actually pull the string there.
And what do you think is the difference? What makes you think that trying to do that now with China is going to be any more successful than it was yesterday?
As bad as you and I and the president view what Kim Jong-un did yesterday with the nuclear test, on balance, I don't think that was aimed at us. I think that was aimed at the Chinese. I think that was little Kim saying to Xi Jinping, you can't make me stop. And there I think, is a proposition that Mr. Xi might not be able to accept.
You talk about sort of the erratic policy in some of the tweets. Do you have confidence that President Trump can handle this?
I have confidence that he has a very good team that will lay out very good options. I fear two things. Number one, the stray electron, all right, the tweet that just goes out at 5 a.m. and unintentionally creates effects that make this go to a place we don't want it to go. The other one is this, all right? We just got into a duel with the North Korean chairman, with Kim Jong-un. If we had a choice of weapons, I think it was a bad choice to get into a hyperbole contest with that kind of guy. The only thing I fear, Mr. President, this is not a manhood issue. This is a national security issue. Don't let your pride get ahead of wise policy here.
That is very sound advice. Thank you so much. We hope people are watching in the White House. General Hayden, thank you especially for coming in
Thank you.
on short notice with this breaking news. Appreciate it.